And let's do 4-19. It's the second tab. Okay, so basically you're given an adjusted trial balance and you gotta just close, you gotta do the closing entries. Okay, so you can see there's dividends, there's revenue, and there's a bunch of expense accounts. So you know you're gonna have to get those to go to zero. So just follow those. This. Maybe I'll copy this diagram, which is all messed up. But let's see. Okay, so I'll put this on the spreadsheet here, and it can help guide you as to what. So there will be 4 journal entries, okay, and they're all again color coded. It's showing you what the debit is, what the credit is, and so you just need to kind of apply this abstract kind of diagram to the specifics of this particular uh, company and their adjusted trial balance. Okay, so go ahead and try that, and then we'll reconvene. Okay, so look, this first one, revenue, debit, credit, income summary. So service revenue, debit, income summary is the name of the account. Okay, so this is the first one. I've just done green, where I had again, a debit here, credit here. So just to be clear, this is what happened in my period. I generated revenue 2 times and I had this balance. This 16,800 is how much I showed in my income statement. Do we agree? Okay, now it's all done. I've made my financial statements. I now want to close my books and start over for the next period. I know that this balance needs to go to zero. Okay, I need my revenues, my expenses, and dividends. All these need to be zero. So if I had this balance, what do I need to do to get it to go to zero? Debit 16,800. This is exactly what we just did right here. Okay, so now this is zero. I saw a lot of people doing this. If I did that, if I switch these two around, I'm going to just end up doubling my account balance. Okay, so the goal again is to not double it. The goal is to close it to zero. Okay, now you're going to do that for every single one of your expense accounts. Okay, so the same thing here. If we just took this 400, whatever the transactions were, it gave us a balance at the end of the period. Debit balance 1400. I want this to go to zero. What do I got to do? I have to credit this 1400. Okay, so that's going to be one of the entries. 1400 credit to rent expense. Okay, and then I need to do the same thing for all of these. Salary expense, I need to credit 3600. Okay, and I'm going to go on, so on and so forth, and I'm going to close it all with a debit. Because see, look, this orange, it's a debit to income summary. But I'm going to have to add up all this stuff. So I can just do sum, and it's going to be like, I don't know, however many, 5 different expense accounts. I'll add them all up. That's going to be my second journal entry. And what is that going to achieve? It's going to zero out all of these expense accounts because they're all going to get a credit for exactly what the debit amount was. And that's going to zero them out. Dividend, $800 debit balance. Again, I will credit dividends and I will debit retained earnings. That's the fourth one. Sorry, I skipped one. Okay, so now with income summary, let's just make sure we're clear. Okay, so remember, this revenue is part of it, and then it was a credit to income summary. let's just say these are my only two. It's not true. There's like 3 other ones, but let's just say these are the only ones. I would have debited 5,000 to income summary here. So now I have a balance of 11,800 credit in income summary. Now I want this to also go to 0. So what do I need to do to income summary? What do you think? Should I credit this 11,800? What is that? That's not going to work. No, I need to debit this 11,800. Okay? So 11,000, I'm just going to whatever. It's not the right number, okay? Because I haven't included all the expenses. Income summary, and I'm going to credit retained earnings. Okay? And I see that again in my diagram here. Debit, income summary, credit retained earnings. Now that's only true. It's not always going to be true. Let's say I actually had $20,000 of expenses. Okay? I would have a debit balance in income summary of 3,200. And in that case, I would need to credit income summary, debit retained earnings to close it. My goal is always to get this to go to 0 though. So I have to just do whatever it takes to close income summary to 0. And then the opposite to retained earnings. Okay, so in this case, I had a loss. It's going to reduce retained earnings because retained earnings is a credit balance. This loss is going to cause me to debit retained earnings. So I put in the rest of these expenses. Does everyone agree with this? Am I doing this right? Any disagreements? Okay, so we can already see that our income summary has 2 entries, this credit from when we close revenue, and now we have this debit. So we can already see that income summary is going to have what? A credit or a debit balance? What do you think? Scott, did you have a... Obviously a credit balance. I have it right here. Okay. The credits exceed the debits. It has this $10,600 credit balance. Okay. So to close that, we need to debit income summary because again, income summary is a fake account. It's like a temporary account we're just using as a placeholder. So we want this to be 0. So I already have half my journal entry here, 10,600. And then what's my credit going to go to? If we look up here to our diagram, I just did this, debit to income summary. We see the credit goes to retained earnings. Okay, so this is part of that update for, we started with our, in this case, it looks like there is no beginning balance for retained earnings. So let's just make sure, see what's going on here. Okay, so now I have this credit. Oops. So I'll just have this. This is our beginning balance, okay? Just to be absolutely clear. There's a 0 beginning balance. If there was a beginning balance, we would see it on this adjusted trial balance. It would say retained earnings, and it'd probably be a credit balance. If there was positive retained earnings. If our company had been generating a loss since its inception, or we've been paying out more dividends than we earned, it would be a debit balance. So retained earnings could theoretically be a debit balance, right? So for some startups that have no revenue, they're going to have a debit balance for retained earnings because they've just been generating losses every year. Okay, but we would see it. Okay, but since I'm looking on the trial balance, I don't see any retained earnings. So now we're going to debit it 10,600. Okay, and then the last step is to close dividends. Okay, so if I look here, I see that I have a debit balance in dividends of 800. So this was my ending balance. I'm going to close this out. I need to make it 0. So that means I need to credit it 800. Okay, so dividends will be a credit 800. And again, I can look on this diagram and I see credit dividends 800, debit retained earnings. Okay, so then I will put this $800 debit here. So now my retained earnings balance has been updated to reflect what happened in my company this period in terms of now the revenues, expenses, and dividends have all been netted together to give me this, what is it, $9,800 ending balance. And so I didn't just delete revenues, expenses, and dividends. I just netted the debits and credits together and have summarized everything into one balance in retained earnings. Okay, so now it's going to continue living on. Next year, that $9,800, reflecting what happened in this period, is going to get updated with whatever happens in the next period. And then that will become the beginning balance of the next period, and it just keeps getting updated.